vaccines that are now in development are headed directly towards adolescents and adults. And the adult vaccination plan is a 5-year escalated, ramped up system to get people on board by 2020 for the implementation of the Healthy People 2020 guidelines that have become goals.
For those that are watching, Sherry, what exactly is Healthy People 2020?
It actually started in 1990 when the Surgeon General came forth and worked with the Department of Health at that time, and they created what was called the Healthy People Guidelines for 1990. And what they looked at is with the health of our overall society, and they were laudable goals. They were looking at things like smoking cessation and wearing motorcycle helmets and obesity and clean water. And so they set up goals to go from 1990 to 2000 and to see where we could get. And so every decade they have established these new goals. So there was goals from 2000 to 2010, and then in 2010 they created the goals to be set up for 2020. And so the difference is that the original goals in 1990, there were 15 goals and about 225 objectives. In the Healthy People 2020 guidelines, there are 44 goals and 1,200 objectives to look at every single corner of our health and every single corner of our life. And there's a sector in there for vaccines that they want to have 90% of the population vaccinated with flu shots, DPT shots, MMR, and all of these were set up initially to be guidelines, but they have become goals. And the goals now, one of the steps in the goals is to take away your right to refuse. So what Healthy People 2020 is supposed to do is it's supposed to get everybody vaccinated and get everybody on board and get all the funding for adults and adolescents. And how this all kind of came about at the same time as we developed the Healthy People 2020 guidelines, it started in 2010. In 2010, this was declared the decade of vaccines. And in 2010, the Gates Foundation put up $10 million to start this to be the decade of vaccines. And within this decade of vaccines from 2010 to 2020, in these Healthy People guidelines, we need to have electronic medical records and tracking. We need to take away people's right to refuse. We need to ramp up all of these guidelines and turn them into goals. And they are well on their way. I mean, that's really, we're at 2017. We only have 3 years left for people to become really aware of this and get involved in not allowing this to happen in the future.
So this is something that literally affects everyone that's watching this program.
Everyone, not here and around the world, because in 2000, the Gates Foundation funded an organization called Gavi, which is the Global Alliance for Vaccination and Immunization. They started that organization with a donation of $750 million. Since that time, they have invested $6.8 billion into vaccinating the world.
Dr. Tenpenny mentioned forced vaccines for adults several times. I've read the literature, and it certainly does appear that one of the purposes of the Healthy People 2020 initiative is to vaccinate all adults as well as children and to eliminate their choice, to eliminate their right to refuse. These are fundamental rights.